First time?
You're new here, aren't
Someday, somewhere, I'll make a difference.
It's a mockery.
I mean, we're not some deep space franchise. This station is about something.
The year is 2023. The name of the podcast, Babylon 5, for the first time. Welcome to Babylon 5 for the first time, not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Akin, and I'm watching Babylon 5 for the first time.
And I'm Brent Allen, and oh my gosh, am I watching Babylon 5 for the very first time. Jeff and I are two veteran Star Trek podcasters watching this show for the first time, trying to overanalyze the whole thing and find out what deep moral messages are within it, or just how awesome is it.
Well, this is not a podcast about Star Trek. Brent and I are Star Trek podcasters and kind of fans of the franchise a little bit. Like, we kind of like it. So those references are sure to make their way into the show. But to keep us honest, we play the rule of 3. That means we get 3 references to Star Trek per episode.
That's it. 3. One of those plays. No substitutions, exchanges, a refund.
Hey, Brent.
Hey, Jeff.
We have a 5-star review.
Oh, yes.
This is the first of 3 reviews that I'm going to share today. This one on Apple Podcasts. James Scott, 1978, says, an enjoyable companion to journey through B5. I've seen several episodes before, but never watched the entire story, so decided to find an accompanying podcast. I chose this one, and I'm glad I did. Great listen.
Thanks. Hey, listen, short and sweet, long and wordy. We'll take them both. Thank you. So, what was the name? I missed the name.
James Scott, 1978.
All right, listen, James Scott, you rock. You're awesome. Thanks for joining us along the way. We quite like the show, too.
We have another 5-star review.
Oh, yes.
This one also on Apple Podcasts from Matthew CCNA. And he says, whoa, no spoilers here. I've really been enjoying your pod. As a long time B5 fan, it's amazing to interpret the show through your fresh eyes. Your format is excellent, and I look forward to it every Monday. Live long. Nope. May the force be. Nope. Well, in purple, I'm stunning.
I understand that reference.
Like, I get it.
I get it. I get that reference. That's awesome, Matthew. You rock. I love it.
We've got one more 5-star review.
Oh, yes.
The trifecta from Apple Podcasts. Chris says, a very deep dive into B5 every week. I've been listening to B5 podcasts since around 2007, and I think this is the best one so far. The guys come from a background of analyzing hundreds of Trek episodes and apply that to B5 and come up with some surprisingly smart and thoughtful analyses. And they're regular, like clockwork, with their podcast posting. Highly recommend.
Jeff, I have a question.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure that this guy is 100% correct.
Yeah?
Okay. How many Star Trek podcasts have you done an episode? How many episodes of Star Trek have you done a podcast on?
I think that, oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off. I have literally done hundreds, multiple hundreds. I'm not sure that you're there yet.
Of Star Trek, you've done hundreds?
Hundreds, yes. Multiple hundreds.
I'm knocking on 100's door.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, like, well, that's not even fair. I think, in reality, so I have to admit, and people who listen to Starfleet Leadership Academy know this, but I record those well in advance. Like, I have them in the can, ready to go, and I'm moving through stuff. I think that this week, or right around, I want to say it's like episode 92 or 93 that's releasing. So I'm close, but not going. I release every other week for that. So yeah, I'm not even quite to 100.
Rookie.
Seriously. Who the heck am I? Right?
Hey, listen. No, I want to pimp that. Starfleet Leadership Academy. It is a fantastic podcast. It isn't just like hey, let's watch an episode and then chit chat about it. Jeff does some wonderful work pulling out the leadership pieces. So if you are a leader on any level, whether you're in government, whether you're in an NGO, whether you're in a religious organization, business organization, charitable organization, whatever it is, this is a podcast you're going to get something out of, even if you don't like Star Trek. There is lots to learn. And there's also, I just happen to know Jeff would never say this, so I'm going to say it for him. He does some coaching and consulting that you can get access to, think, through the Patreon side over there, which is different from our Patreon here. But you guys, it is well worth it. I've been a fan and listening to Jeff's for about the last 90 some episodes.
Thanks, Brent. That means a lot. I work really hard on the Starfleet. It's a very different format than what we do here. I work really hard on it. And yeah, I offer, I have some cool stuff on my Patreon over there. You can get to through the Starfleet Leadership Academy things. And I also do full-time coaching and consulting outside of all of that. Just like hire Jeff Akin through the Starfleet Leadership Academy. Like, yeah, it's a real business that I run, which is wild.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and people out there may not know this. I hope they would at this point. Like, you're doing stuff at conferences now.
Yep.
And, you know, I don't know if you've got a book coming. You probably ought to. You do? Okay,
I'm working on one. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. But like, you've got, I mean, this is legit, and the stuff is good. Like, you're not just out there doing it. Like, it's actually valuable stuff. And so people should go out there and do that.
Thank you.
Now, with that though, Jeff, that is 3 reviews we read today. We also play our rule of 3, and there is a 3rd game that we did. Oh, you like that? You That's like good. That? There is a 3rd game that we play right here at Babylon 5 for the first time. And that game comes much later in the show. It's where we get to the end of the show and we take a look at next week's episode title, knowing nothing about the episode, and we make a guess as far as what we thought that episode was going to be about. Jeff, do you remember what you said it was going to be last week?
Yeah, not what it turned out to be. I thought that we were going to really focus on the Babylon Treaty and Babylon 5 kind of working to re-legitimize itself with the non-aligned worlds. I thought there'd be a ship that came through that had a sob story and tried to use Babylon 5 for negotiating peace treaty and all that good stuff. Not a single part of that happened for this one. I was about as way off as you could be. Brent, what did you think this one was going to be?
Yeah, last week was so horrible, I don't remember.
Block the whole thing out.
Like, I usually even write it down. I didn't even bother writing it down this time. I think it was something to the effect of like, you know, like ships that do like a lot of damage in battle. They have like cool names like Widowmaker or the Peacemaker or something like that. Like, I thought this was going to be like one of those kind of ships coming in, maybe a big battle on 5. Not really at all what this was either.
Yeah, we were both off on this one, but that's okay, because now for the people who want to know what we're talking about, who haven't watched this one for a long time or have never watched it in their entire lives and are just listening to this for, you know, somebody like to hear us talk about Babylon 5. Brent, will you walk us through Ship of Tears?
Well, hey, remember a few weeks ago when the Earth Force folks stormed the newscaster place back on Earth when it was live on air and the feed got cut? Well, they're back. And it's totally not a state-run media now. No way. No, but they do explain what happened. It really was just a misunderstanding. You see, there was this rebel force that came in and attacked an ISN. The news station cut the feed themselves to stop the spread of misinformation, but now everything's good again. They've got control. They've repaired everything because those dirty rebels destroyed a lot over here at the station. And, you know, people are just so extremely happy with the incredibly popular martial law program, which has been going on Earth. And it has effectively virtually eliminated all crime everywhere. So yay, President Clark. Yeah, the folks on Babylon 5 aren't buying it either. Hey, speaking of hearing from Earth, Sheridan is out testing some of the Starfuries that Babylon 5 inherited from the Churchill. They're this new fancy kind with atmospheric wings that fold out, and they actually have a 2-person cockpit, which is awesome, with cool painting and teeth down the side, and there's 4 ion cannons, and there's a place for your service droid to keep things peachy clean when you jump into hyperspace while you get to Dagobah. And while they're out, they pick up a transmission. It's a Black Omega Starfury from Earth. And that can only mean one thing: Psycor. And Psycor can only mean one thing: Bester. This, Jeff, is a Bester episode. Well, Bester has come to help Sheridan this time. He promises he's really here to help. But no drugs this time, or else Bester can't help. You see, he's gotten wind of a shipment of weapons components that the Shadows, whoever they are, Bester says, are transporting. He doesn't like how the shadows have taken control and have influence over the core, so he thinks that this shipment of weapons components must be stopped. And because he'll be in hyperspace, his psi powers, his super psi powers actually, are even like ratcheted all the way up to 11 or 12. Wherever I guess. Anyway, they're ratcheted all the way up, and Bester's going to be able to use those psi powers to track them down so they can stop the weapons components from being delivered to wherever they're going. Well, in a move that I'm honestly not really sure was a good one, Sheridan shows off the shiny new inside of the White Star to Bester, and even lets him sit in the big chair for a minute, which, you know, Kirk never let him do that. Until Sheridan says, "Get the hell out of my chair," which was awesome. Anyway, they find the ship out there. Like, it works. Everything goes according to plan. Hey, did you know that the White Star has a tractor beam? It actually has like 3 of them, which is kind of cool. And, you know, Lanier's there teching the tech, and Sheridan's like, "Mr. Lanier, just turn it on." And he does, and the shadows are like, "Hey, you know what? That's cool. You keep those weapons components. We're going to peace out." And they hightail it out of there without so much as a blink. That was weird, but okay. Well, back on the station, G'Kar has forced a conversation between himself and Ivanova, and ultimately Sheridan, to make them hold up their end of the bargain from a bunch of episodes ago to bring G'Kar in on this new resistance council. But before that can happen, Delenn has to have a heart-to-heart with G'Kar, where she tells him that they actually knew all about the shadows way before they attacked his homeworld, and they did nothing to stop it. It's a tearjerker of a moment, and while G'Kar, through gritted teeth, says he gets it, even quoting that line from Jesus Kosh that some must be sacrificed in order to save all, Delenn asks for forgiveness anyway, and G'Kar simply says, "Maybe one day, but not today." I mean, after all, this has been a lot for him to take in. Well, down in MedLab, Dr. Franklin is examining the contents of those weapon component ships, and those components turn out to be people, and those people turn out to be Psi-Corps, and those Psi-Corps people turn out to be rogue telepaths that didn't join the Corps or take the meds. They've been captured, they've been cryo-frozen, and given to the shadows to, as we will come to learn, become pilots for their ships, meaning that they will merge with the organic tech inside and become one with the ship. And they really, really, really don't like Bester, because it turns out telepaths, if they don't have a bunch of implants and stuff, can screw up a whole lot of stuff for the shadows. Not good. Well, one of those weapons components, you know, the one they just so happen to pull out of stasis, also just so happens to be Bester's mistress. And Bester's mistress just so happens to be pregnant with his child. You see, Bester's marriage was a core arrangement, and there's no love there. But this relationship, this was the real deal. And Bester didn't know that she was there. He scans her, because that's what Bester does, and he sees her memories. He sees her from her point of view laying on the table with the Stribe. I'm pretty sure it was the Stribe or Streeb, getting her implants to control her psychic ability so they can use her. And Bester wakes up and declares, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." And he tells Sheridan and the crew, "Your war has become my war." And Sheridan looks around and goes, "Did we just become best friends?" The next shot we have of Bester is simply of him leaving the station in his Starfury. But something strikes a chord in Garibaldi's mind. He runs back to his quarters to check that book of Jaquan that G'Kar gave him, and he finds it. 1,000 years ago, the shadows came and set up camp on Narn. And because telepaths are a danger to the shadows, they killed all the Narn telepaths, which is why the Narns don't have telepaths today, and why the shadow ship didn't do anything to the White Star, because Bester was on board. But the shadows have developed that tech that can control the telepaths, so as long as they have those implants, they can use them, and they actually make really good pilots. So, dun, dun, dun! And one last thing. The shadows are out of hiding. They are now openly attacking, and their first spot, Precary Space. Jeff, what did you think, especially coming off of last week's episode, what did you think of Ship of Tears?
absolutely love this episode. This was so good. I needed this. I needed this so badly, right? I mean, we've had a rough little run, and this was so the moment, like they're out there, they're doing the Starfury thing, and I'm like, oh, cool. They've got Vipers now, all of a sudden.
Right?
It's okay, cool. And then they show Bester, and I'm like, yes, I am in. This is going to be great. I called it, and I called it last time he was here. Brent, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not. I know people made comments when I talked about this last time. Frankly, I ignored most of them because I don't want to know what his arc is or whatever, because that's the whole point of this show. Bester's a good guy. Bester's been in the right this whole time. Now, he's been a jerk about it, and he's done evil things, but ultimately, I feel like he's like a lawful evil guy hanging out with a bunch of chaotic good people. Or maybe he's like neutral good a little bit, or or something. I don't know. He's not this big bad guy everyone's been making him out to be. He truly, deeply loves Earth, and he truly, deeply loves his opportunities for advancement within that Earth, because he is superior to everyone else, and he proved that. He proved it without a shadow of a doubt in this episode. I don't know. We got like 9 more episodes or something like that. 8, 9 more episodes in this. Let's just do them. Let's just go like a solid
one
week.
a day.
Let's knock this season out. I'm ready to rock. Let's do this. What were your initial thoughts on it?
Jeff, I don't mind to confess to everyone out there that it has been several months for me without some deeply personal things happening in my own personal life. You might call it a dry spell, so to speak. So I would like to use this opportunity to do something I haven't gotten to do in a very long time.
Okay.
Right here, because it's the middle of summer. It's been about 5 or 6 months, and I would just like to say, touchdown! Oh my God, this was the episode I needed. Folks, get your minds out of the gutter. I'm talking about football. That's the thing that's been missing from my life. That's been a dry spell for the last bunch of months. This was the episode I needed, Jeff. I loved this episode. Loved. Like, there are times I'm watching this episode and I'm just like closing my eyes because I'm just trying to listen and take in everything and absorb it. And I probably watched this episode 3, 4, 5 times.
Wow.
I don't normally watch that many times. I usually watch maybe twice. Maybe it's once or twice. 3 times is a lot. This was like 4 or 5, right? Like, I loved this. Jeff, I am so excited for where we go from here. And you know what? Here's what didn't happen. Not everything got wrapped up in a neat little bow in 42 minutes. We didn't have big pew, pew, pew action scenes in the middle of this one. Honestly, there wasn't even a lot of deep, like, messages and morals. Like, there was less in this week than there was in last week, and I hated last week. But this is the content. This is the story I needed. This is what I wanted. This is what I'm in Babylon 5 for. I loved this episode. And Jeff, we're not going to do it because we would get divorced, not from each other, but from our individual wives. But if we could just knock out these next 8 episodes of this season and just go bam, 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 probably would have to add like episodes 1 and 2 of the next season on, just right how things go. But like oh my gosh, you know what, Jeff, I ain't gonna lie to you. My kid's going to camp next week.
Right. We could just do it. Mine is not, which is a little bit of a problem, but
yeah, we'll decide that offline. But either way, you know what'll happen? We'll piss everybody else out there off. We might do that, but we're still going to release them 1 week at a time.
That'd be filthy. That would be filthy.
Yeah, no, but Jeff, we've talked about it before. Like our week is. It may seem like a long time to the listeners out there, but our week is pretty bam, 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 bam as we go through.
Seriously.
I can't imagine trying to do a new episode every day, having that released, and what a release day looks like for us. I mean, oh my gosh. But anyway, yeah, Jeff, I loved this episode. There was so much going on here. I want to toss it back to you. What stood out to you? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to get into? Because there's just a lot. There's so many pieces. I don't even have this organized. It's just train of thought as the episode happened to me. So I'll let you. Where are we going? What are we talking about first? Let's go.
I want to talk about Bester because good. When was it Dust to Dust the last time we saw him? And I was telling people, I'm like, dude, he filthy like approach to everything. But I mean, dude's got a heart. He loves and he cares. Bottom line, here's the thing. I loved Sheridan's approach to sending Ivanova in to see if he scans you, see what happens. You know what happened there? Bester didn't scan. He was a man of his word.
Which is surprising.
Is it really?
You wouldn't think he would be.
I don't think that he has ever not done exactly what he says he's going to do. All the way back to Mind War, when we first saw him, and every time we've seen him, what he says is going to happen is what he does. He's right there. Oh, you need me to come on and you need me to take a drug or whatever? Cool. Okay. No problem. I'll do it. I'm there.
You know what though? But Bester is he's the dude from Pirates of the Caribbean where he's like, oh, drop her off over there. And she's like, yo, you've got to take me back to port. And the pirate turns and goes, oh no, me missy. That wasn't part of the deal. She's like, but you tricked me. And he's like, but I'm a pirate. Don't
you think was going to happen?
Honor.
He gets off his Starfury and there's all those security guys in riot gear. And he's just like, of course there are.
He started laughing at that moment. But he's walking through that bay alone. I was like, there's no way he's walking through that bay alone. I'm going to push back on you.
Okay.
I don't think Bester's a good guy.
Okay.
I don't think Bester's a guy. And I mean this from a moral center standpoint. I think you talked about him. You kind of started pulling out that good, neutral, evil, chaotic. Uh-huh. I would say he maybe started in more of a neutral, and where I would see him now is more in a chaotic good, because I do think, and I think you're with me on this, just given what you've been saying, I think Bester's coming over to the good side, but I think he's going to be still his own little bad guy self. And we've seen this before. And these tend to be the best characters of the whole dang show. This is a Emperor Philippa Georgiou. This is a Garrick, right? This is, you know what I mean? Like this is the bad guy who embeds themselves in the core of the show. They're still very much about their own self. They're kind of that I like the word chaotic. You never know what exactly is going to happen. You really don't know if you can ever trust them, but in the end, they wind up being on your side. And usually at some point you're just going to have to trust them and hope it works. And, I think that's where we're going to see with Bester, but I'm not saying he's going to be a good guy. He's going to be on the good side, but he is not going to be a good guy.
He's on the good side, but he's on the good side for his own selfish, narcissistic reasons,
which makes him a bad guy.
Yeah, right. But I think that is the complexity that Babylon 5 is, and then to ride your reference, the complexity that Deep Space Nine brought as well, and other TV. The one I think of is that ABC, the Disney show Once, with Rumpelstiltskin, where he was the bad guy, but then he ended up becoming a relatively trusted part of the group, but he was still doing some pretty shady stuff because he's Rumpelstiltskin. It's what he's going to do.
That's just what he does.
Totally Bester. I agree. That's a great reference.
I will say this. Bester is my favorite bad guy. And I didn't realize it until this episode. I love when Bester comes on the episode, because tell me a bad Bester episode.
Mind War, but that wasn't his fault.
A bad episode.
No, it was a good episode wrapped in terrible wrapping paper. But Bester was great in that episode. Immediately, I think we talked about that way back in the first season. He was the shining star of that.
You're right. We ranked Mind War down at number 20 on our.
It was not a good episode.
Okay, fair enough.
It could have been. It's a good idea.
Okay, but either way, right? You know what? We give season 1 a pass, right?
Right. Exactly.
That's what we do. But Bester has been, you love to hate the guy when he comes on, and every bit of distrust, you feel it when Sheridan and the crew get one over on Bester. At least it feels like they get one over on Bester. It makes you feel so good. When Sheridan looked at him and said, Mr. Bester, get the hell out of my chair. We are all like, yeah, that's right.
Totally.
Because he sits down and you're like, oh, he's sitting in the captain's chair. Oh, what's he? That's not okay. And he's just like, I've never done this before.
I like the fit of this thing.
I see why he likes this chair. That one hurts my back after a while.
He was explicit about it early on, about just God, he had a different word for me. He said normals, and then what did he had a different word that he used in this one. Obsoletes, did he call it or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Like, he clearly believes he's of a superior race and has, rights to more stuff, but he's hilarious about it. Like, it's just stuff like that. He's also filthy about it. Like that scene with Ivanova where he's like telling her, yeah, your mom did this stuff, but you know what? You have her eyes. That was filthy. But to your point in the recap, what in the name of all that is holy possessed them to plop him onto the White Star?
I was not on board with that. Like, if Bester needs to be around a little bit more and earn a little bit before we're like, hey, it's like we have to use the White Star for this one, because they could have used any ship, any transport ship. They just introduced us to 2-person cockpit Starfuries. Throw him and Sheridan in that thing and go. Like, and that thing's, what did he say? He's sitting on 4 brand new pulse ion cannons. Go destroy that ship.
Show us what's up. Totally. But it's like,
although they would be, I'm sorry, to be fair, because I can hear people clacking their keyboards right now. They would be going up against a shadow ship, and they used the White Star to destroy the shadow ship last time. Maybe a Starfury wouldn't be that powerful after all. Just to be fair, there might be a good reason.
But then there's a preamble. There's some sort of a something around, like, but he just shows up on there. But you go in and you're like, hey, dude, here's the deal. We're going to put a bag over your head. We're going to walk you onto the bridge. This is a Minbari ship, or whatever. Like, dress it up somehow, but not just like, oh, hey, here's our secret weapon. Like, hi, here you go.
I do want to point out a bit of continuity error, or correct my own misunderstandings about something. The last time we saw Bester, they had just gotten the White Star several episodes before that, and they come in and Bester's wanting to control some stuff, and Delenn's like, I got an idea for how we can do this. And she goes and grabs presumably people off the White Star.
Okay.
Presumably. I could be wrong, and this is where my assumption might be taken over. Presumably gets these people off the White Star who are Minbari telepaths that together can mess up Mr. Bester.
Yep.
Put them on the ship. I don't need Bester. Put them on the ship.
So, Brent, this is the big hole in the episode for me.
Is it? Okay.
So there's a couple of pieces. So one, Garibaldi grabs the Book of Jaquan. He finds the little passage and everything. Jakar recites that thing, chapter and verse. How did he not piece that? He's speculating, well, all the Narns, we used to have telepathy and now we don't. It says right here in this book that you're reading all the time. You have the answer. Minbari were involved 1,000 years ago in the Shadow conflict. They know these things. How did they not know that telepathy was the secret weapon? And how many times have we seen, and maybe it hasn't been a lot, but we've been on the White Star. We've had at least 2 engagements with the Shadows on the White Star with Minbari staffing it. Some of them have got to be telepaths, and nothing this whole time. Out of the blue, suddenly and magically, it's a revelation that it's the telepaths, even though it's actually been right in front of at least Jakar and probably Delenn. And definitely Kosh. Definitely 10,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, Kosh and the Vorlons have been there.
I mean, wouldn't you say then that Kosh, just knowing what we know about Kosh, is Kosh a telepath?
Yeah, I got to think so.
You would think the Vorlons as a whole probably are like a telepathic race.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even some of the other first ones that were beyond them, right? Of course they won all the wars.
Stand by. We'll be right back. Are you ready to take your Babylon 5 for the first time experience to the next level? With our exclusive Patreon, you'll get access to all kinds of cool stuff that you can only find there. Our recording notes, unedited reaction videos, an exclusive Discord community. And you can even be listed as a producer of the show. Plus, we even offer exclusive meet and greets and hangouts. You won't find this kind of experience anywhere else. Get all these amazing benefits, plus the opportunity to interact with other fans from around the world. It's being part of a huge community where everyone shares the same appreciation for Babylon 5. Subscribe at patreon.com/Babylon5First. That's the number 5 and the word first to get access to these incredible benefits. That's patreon.com/Babylon5First. We can't wait to see you there.
You know,
Right? Yeah, they've had these. We sent these telepaths.
That's why the first one's pieced out. They're like, guys, we're overpowering the shadows every time. That, like, that's why the shadows go away for so long, because they get such a beat down with all the telepaths, right? And they're like, it's not even a fair fight. Like, we got to go away. We'll leave the Vorlons here. Just let it be a fair fight. And the Vorlons are like, hey, these other people have telepath people now. Maybe we can peace out here soon too. Like, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing to me, like, I mean, if you can suspend that whole fact that we should have known this all along, if you can suspend that, this is one of the greatest episodes we've ever seen. But I don't know, that's the big hole. That's the only hole I really have in this episode. But on Bester being a good guy, on the good side, but not a good guy, did I hear it right at the end that they said that Bester's part of the Army of Light now? Like, did I hear that?
I missed that. If they said those words, I missed that.
Because at the end, when they were taking Jakar into that awesome new war counselor, basically the astrometrics lab that they built, they took him in, and like there's this voiceover about, or at some point, you know, now we've got such a much stronger Army of Light because we've got Jakar here, we've got Bester, we've got I'm pretty sure I heard his name brought up as being like, he's in.
He's part of the Army of Light. Okay.
He's going to be reporting back from Earth. Like, yeah, he's off. He took off to Earth. We're going to hear from him again. He's going to feed us information. We're going to tell him stuff. Like, he's part of the fold, I think.
I think that is the, even if they didn't say that directly, I think that is the implication of this episode is the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Your war is now my war. I'm in. They're a little quick to accept it, but you know, they're going to, I mean, this is where you go, okay, we're not going to trust you just yet. Go do this stuff and kind of, we'll let you be adjacent to us for right now.
Do you think maybe that's sort of like, I just had this thought because we met the party first ones a while ago, you know, when Ivanova and Marcus went out to do their first contact mission and they shut down when you brought up the Vorlons. Were the Vorlons and the party first ones essentially like our war council and Bester, where they were just in a case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but we still hate each other, but we're going to be cool while we take this thing on?
It could be, because they're definitely, the first ones did not seem like a unified group of folks out there. Yeah, it doesn't, there certainly was at least the I'm better than you are thing. Even if it's friendly, you know, like maybe animosity friendly. It
was still totally there.
So his motivation, let's talk about his motivations for this. Ultimately for him, the love of his life, albeit a mistress, albeit somebody who he was trying to track down, or people like her, that he, like, this dude is freaking Saul of Tarsus to his own people. And he falls in love with that one. And she becomes the love of his life. So much so that she's the mistress. He is married, not a marriage of love. Maybe they have an open relationship. Yeah, like, we're here together to do this, but you do you, I'll do me, and they Tamav and Londo, right? Like,
yeah, and we'll do whomever we want. Like,
right. Bill and Hillary. Just got, you know.
Yeah.
That was a joke, folks. It was a joke. Just trying to bring it into the real world. Although, you know, that's how their marriage works. Anyway, that's the love of his life. She has his child. She may never give birth to that child. Maybe not. I don't know. What does being frozen in cryofreeze do to an embryo?
Yeah, and getting hooked up to all this stuff, like,
and I mean, oh my gosh, if she's psychic and he's level 12, what'd they say? She was like level 11.
Yeah, 11 or 12, I think.
Herself. Remember, they're trying to breed these people. What if that kid is like level 24? Like, what's going on there? But maybe she has a baby, maybe she doesn't. I don't know. But that then is his motivation for flipping sides.
I don't think it was. I think because he didn't know that until he saw the band. He was willing to go, well, maybe it was the thing that pushed him to flip sides. But what brought him to the table was just that he had learned and heard about these shadows and felt that they threatened his ability to basically become supreme overlord of all on Earth. Because, you know, that's That's what he's aiming for.
Well, see, but I thought that's why he came to destroy the weapons components. And then I think he was going to be happy just to go back home.
Yep. Shut it down.
But when he found it was her, that's when he turned around and said, my war has become your war. This is on a different level for him now.
Well, how many episodes ago was it? I think it was Ceremonies of Light and Dark, where I talked about in the Delta message, it was about love and the crazy things love makes us do. Well, here you go. The crazy thing now is Bester is on team B5. Like, it's not Babylon 5 anymore. Now it's Bester 5. Sorry, that came out a lot more lame than it sounded in my head.
So Bester's on the team. So here's what I'm willing to do, Jeff. I don't know if this is true or not, but I am willing to move forward with the idea that Bester is on the team until we get clarification that he's not.
That's fair.
Fair.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about the G'Kar Delenn conversation.
I loved that. I loved it.
I want to be careful because this plays a lot into what I want to talk about later on in the show. But I did want to get kind of your overall thoughts on how that whole thing worked.
So I'm just going to buzz myself right now because I'm diving in. TNG's The Bonding, which was the 5th episode of the 3rd season of The Next Generation. I just know this because a couple months ago, that was my episode for the Starfleet Leadership Academy. But they talked a lot. So in that episode, Worf was leading an away team. An archaeologist on the team died unexpectedly. And it came up and she had a kid, a 12-year-old, Jeremy Astor, on the ship. And they had to go tell kid because dad was already dead. And now he's on Enterprise. He's an orphan. And there was this conversation with Worf, Picard, and Troy about having to deliver the news. Mm-hmm. And Picard was like, this is my responsibility. I have to do this. This is my ship. Things that happen here are this is my fault. I have to go do this thing. That's what happened here with Delenn. I have to go do this thing. This was my decision. This is how I did this thing. I am taking this responsibility, and I'm going to share about 80% of the truth with G'Kar, but enough that basically paints me in the worst picture that he, so he knows what went down. This was a shining moment for Delenn. It was also one of her most suspect moments ever, where because I think the fact that she continued to lie by omission when fully confessing to G'Kar, it was amazing. It was touching. Also, she's still playing the game, right? It was a very complicated scene.
I thought she took a little too much on herself.
Really?
She really did straddle this line, I think, between, yes, here's where we were. We knew about this. We didn't do anything. And I was on the Great Council and I couldn't say anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
But she did the right thing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And even G'Kar recognized that. He's like, and I still would have killed you. Where you stand for that? And she's like, yeah, I know. Please don't do that right now. But she's crying because it's this is what it meant. But it felt like she was taking the weight of the entire Great Council on her own personal shoulders in sharing this. And not to say that she should have gone in there and been like, well, they did it. They made me do it. I wanted to, I'm on your side, but they, she's like, no, I was a part of that. This is where we are. And I thought she was taking a little too much on her own shoulders for what everybody did. But G'Kar's response in 2 specific places I thought was incredibly notable, where he says, I would have killed you where you are. But he says the words. He goes to, and I don't remember the exact quote, but he's like, in order to save all, some must be sacrificed.
Yeah.
Or so, he's like, I remember that line. Damn it, that sucks. But then that moment where she asks him through tears, can you forgive me? And he goes, maybe one day, but not today, which was an incredibly self-aware moment. I'm not in that place right now. I might get there. I'm not in that place right now. I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to exact revenge.
Because he did it. He says, perhaps, but not today. He stands up and he walks out of the room because he knew, that self-awareness. It's what it was. He knew if he stood there 5 more seconds, he probably would have killed her. Right. Because it's he had that, God, just like you said, it was so well said. God, it sucks being an enlightened person. Enlightenment sucks. Because it'd be awesome is for me to get super mad, rip you apart like I did Londo when I was high as a kite. It'd be awesome to do that. But I'm enlightened. Like, I saw Jesus Kosh and I can't do it anymore. So I'm going to leave. I'm just going to go.
I mean, but I also think that that's is a part of conflict resolution. And this is I'll tell it. I don't mind. In my own marriage, I've discovered this in my own marriage, and I see it in other places. I see it in other people's relationships. My wife is that kind of person. Like, if there's any kind of conflict whatsoever, she wants to solve it. She wants to solve it right now and get it resolved immediately.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want to have any conflict in her life. Resolve it right now. Sometimes I need a minute. You know what I mean? Like, I need to decompress for a second. And you need to shut up and leave me alone. Just give me a few moments. Let me collect my thoughts. And honestly, it's not usually between her and I. It's like between me and one of my kids. One of my kids blows her top and I'm like, I'm going to kill this kid.
Right.
Or I say something and I piss my kid off, and then she's like, well, you need to go talk to your son. And I'm like, he needs to sit in his room for 20 minutes and let me calm the freak down.
Yeah.
Because I will go pop his little head off like a zit. So let me calm down. Let me come to that spot where I can go, he's still young. Okay, now I'm ready to go talk. Like, and I thought that was the word self-aware of G'Kar to be like, not right now. And the most insincere thing he could have done would be like, yeah, sure, I forgive you.
Yeah.
The most insincere thing he could have done in that moment. So I really like that. I want to talk about that, dive into that a little bit more later on. What did you make, Jeff? There's an old leadership phrase. This is the leadership question I'm going to ask you. There's an old leadership phrase I'm familiar with. It's called leading up.
Mm-hmm.
You're familiar with that, right? What do you do when you have to lead people over you? G'Kar goes to Aufenthie and he forces an issue.
Yep.
Says, you told me this. Sheridan told me this. I've not been able to make any headway. I'm forcing it right now. Yeah, I really don't have time to work. I don't care. I'm forcing it right now. What did you make of that scene?
I loved it, to be honest. He was getting, and Sheridan even said it when he was talking to Delenn. He's like, I've been trying to just kind of let this blow by for a while. I'm not ready for it. That's not fair. That's disingenuous. I thought it was interesting that G'Kar would go after Aufenthie for it. Like, it's lucky she even knew, how did he even know that was a thing? But that's part of the strategy, really, is just publicly calling out Sheridan as much as possible. Hopefully she doesn't know. And she's like, what do you mean he said that? But that was great self-advocacy. That's exactly how it should have been done. The scene I wish we had, though, was the one with Aufenthie going to Sheridan and being like, dude, you put me in a really rough spot here. I got attacked in the corridor by G'Kar, and he wasn't wrong. You've been blowing him off for a long time. Make a call.
At the start of that conversation, though.
Yeah, a little bit of it.
She went in, she's like, by the way, there's something else we got to talk about. We've got a problem with G'Kar. And then it cut the scene.
Because the thing is, they don't have a problem with G'Kar. The problem, honestly, was with Sheridan. He was trying to just not deal with the thing. And then it almost blew up. And I mean, good for Aufenthie for taking it to him. But I would have liked to have seen that scene where she called him out. But we got the other side of it when he talked to Delenn. And he's like, I've been hoping this wouldn't come up. But it's like, why? I mean, he's totally come through on his end. Narns have been all in on this whole thing. He even said it. Narns have died for Babylon 5. Like, we put our lives out there and you can't even tell me if I'm in or not. Like, yeah, no, I thought it was really well done. I think that's what self-advocacy looks like, specifically what self-advocacy from a politician, because that was G'Kar understanding how to create a scene or make a scene, how to force an issue, how to do those things. I mean, it would have been better if he just went straight to Sheridan and was like, hey, I need a couple of minutes. No, I need Sheridan, I am forcing the issue right here, right now. Gone that route.
You're not going to get away from me this time.
That would have been better. But I think it was good in that we just talked about Delenn having to kind of come forth with, taking some accountability. Sheridan had to take some He took accountability to Delenn. Again, it'd been better if it was to G'Kar, but we got to see two, we'll call them executive level leaders having to take accountability in one way or another. And that's a good thing.
So speaking of Aufenthie taking it to someone, she bitch slapped Bester so hard she drew blood.
Seriously.
It wasn't even that hard of a hit, to be honest with you.
I think Bester's just very fragile. He's very, he's a very sensitive person.
Literally thin skin. He just, or she caught him with a ring or a the zipper on her glove or something. Like, I don't know what it was.
Or he's got he's like an implant or something on his tooth and it scratched him or something.
Something. I was like, geez, man. I was like, it's badass, but it's not really that hard. I did particularly love the Cask of Amontillado reference.
Yeah, that was, so I caught it, but I didn't really connect all the dots on it.
Do you know the story of Cask of Amontillado?
I don't think that I do.
So it's an Edgar Allan Poe short story.
Okay.
Piece of Brent trivia. Edgar Allan Poe is in my family tree.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like a second cousin once removed or something like that. Like, or maybe third cousin. I don't know. He's back there.
That's cool.
But yeah. Like he's I don't know. Anyway. But anyway, the whole deal with Cask of Amontillado was these two guys who like were enemies and had beef. One dude buried the other dude in the wall, like got him drunk, put him in like this little alcove of a wall, and just while he's sitting there talking to him, building this wall, and then he leaves him behind there. And the cask is like, it's like a cask of wine. He's just like giving him this drink. Dude buries him alive, and he's like, so what do you think? The Cask of Amontillado, is that what we're gonna do here? He's gonna bury me here, leave me in the brig.
That was the plan.
Literally, that was the plan. I love Sheridan in that moment. He's asking Ivanova to go in and like be the guinea pig, and she's like, well, what if he does it? And he's like, then we'll throw him in the brig so far. Well, how long are we gonna keep him there? Until we run out of food or he dies of old age. I was like, damn.
Yeah, it's hard to
get it. And he meant it too.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'll throw him in there. I'm not going to kill him, but I'll throw him in there.
And from a leadership standpoint, again, it was awesome because he was utilizing the tools that he had available for him, and he was creating a way to protect the people doing that. Hey, yes, Ivanova, I'm going to put you at risk, but here's the thing. If stuff goes south, you're going to be fine. He's not. I got you covered.
Okay, I've got one last thing I really want to talk about. I want to talk about the girl.
Okay.
I didn't catch her name.
Carolyn,
thank you. I had it written down somewhere. I was like, wait, where is it? I have it in my notes. Okay, I want to talk about the memory first. All right, those people we saw, they looked like the Roswell aliens. Sort of. Now, I remember the last time these were the Stribes, right?
I don't think these were the Stribe, but they might have been. I'm not sure what they were.
The Stribe.
It would make sense because the Stribe had the little, in your face, rang.
Well, they were on the organic tech ships and stuff.
Mm-hmm, yep. And here they were doing kind of the same thing, but physically. And they even had face masks on, which I thought was very, very apropos.
They did. Now, I don't remember what the last episode was that we saw them in. I think it might have been season 2 sometime.
Yeah, I think it was the one where Sheridan got abducted. Was that accident?
It was absolutely that one. And I said these were the Roswell aliens, and a bunch of people commented and were like, oh, no, that's the Vree. I remember that word. Uh-huh. That's the Vree. And we saw him in this other episode. I think it was the one in front of the judge where they're like, you abducted my grandfather or something like that. And they were like, whatever. They look like the Roswell aliens. All right.
Yeah.
So that to me, I'm going to say that's a callback. This is, Jeff, we have this fully confirmed. The Shadows use organic tech. Their ships are organic tech. This is the same thing we saw back in Infection. Did you hear the phrase she said? She said, kill to protect.
Yes.
Do you remember what the dude said way back then?
Protect.
And he was killing to protect, right? I kind of want to go back and watch Infection again.
That's a tall order.
Not going to do that until Babylon 5 for the second time. And she's in this thing. Jeff, buddy, you have not watched the Brent Watches video this week yet, have you?
Yeah, no, I don't ever watch the Brent Watches video till after we record this.
Okay. So I've got to come. You've had something that I have said, no. And I think I'm coming around on it.
Really?
Yes. So they take organic tech. They use, now they're using people,
mm-hmm.
right, to pilot their ships and do some things. And Jeff, I think you might be right. I think Sheridan's wife might still be alive.
100%. I thought she was going to be the one in the tube. I'm like, it's Anna Sheridan.
I know. I thought, oh man, you might be right about this. I have so not wanted to say that. And I've so like, it wasn't until this episode that I was like, oh, I think he might be right now. I think you called it. How long ago was that you called that?
That was in the second season, I think.
Oh
that
my
I was
God,
calling
Jeff.
that. It was as soon as we knew Morden's story. When we got that, I'm like, oh my God, Anna's gonna be this.
You were on that way before I was. I think I'm with you on that.
Well, I have another theory. that totally unfounded. But I was curious who those aliens were as well. And my initial thought was same as yours. Oh, that's got to be the Stribe. And that's why the Stribe were introduced, because, they do these things and here's the wraparound. But what I noticed was whenever they showed them, they had that shadow scream happening, the shadow, that sound that they make.
Okay.
The screech or whatever.
Yeah. I don't think I noticed that, but okay.
So they showed.
No, they did. Yeah. But it was like this like amalgamation of a scene. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. It was not quite as synthesized maybe. And so my thought was, are these aliens the shadows? And all we've seen and interacted with so far is their organic tech, like the ships and like little carriers or drones. And these are the actual beings.
That's what I said back when the first time we saw these, was because like so far, what have we actually seen of the shadows? Like we saw them talking to Morden once way back in like season 1, I think it was.
But that was all like weird.
And they were all
like,
weird and shadowy. Like we haven't actually seen them until we got to the Stribe, that the Stribe are the shadows. However, because Delenn was really confident in knowing who the Stribe were, like I was like, I don't know that that's the shadows. The shadows are supposed to have been sleeping.
Yeah.
So, but what are the Stribe to the shadows? Are they their mechanics?
Right. Or their surgeons?
Like what are the Stribe? Like that's and how do they relate to the shadows? I think that's a big question that we now have going forward. We've not had that answered to go forward. So
Carolyn, two things. One, she kept saying, so they made it very clear that the Psy-Core emblem is a symbol of pain for the shadows. And so they're trying to kind of work that. But what she would say is, and I got the quote here, the sign hurts us. We cannot hear the machine. And at first I was like, yeah, you can't hear the machine. It's interrupting your connection with the shadows, which you're being built to interface with. But then I started thinking, what other machine have we heard a lot about that also has a organic being attached to it? The great machine of Epsilon 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that the machine that she couldn't hear?
No, I don't think so. I think that machine of Epsilon 3 is something that's left over by early first ones.
Kind of the same tech
Jeff,
style.
I'm gonna be so pissed if you're onto that. If Epsilon 3 turns out to be like the base of the shadows and they've been right there the whole time, I'm gonna be so pissed. I don't think that's it. I think this is the Epsilon 3. There might be several of these kind of scattered throughout the universe, but that they are remnants, leftover remnants as part of the war. Because I don't think the shadows are the sole proprietors of organic tech.
Correct. I agree.
Like I think it was just the tech of the day whenever they were.
Mm-hmm. We see that with the Vorlons. Like they've got.
Yes, the Vorlons, they've definitely used organic tech. And whatever these old, the dude from Infection, if we go back to that episode, they were doing archaeologist work on a dead planet and came across this stuff. And it started like attaching and taking over and that sort of stuff. So there are obviously planets out there that have this stuff left over on them, dead or not. I wonder what would happen if he went back to the planet and like plugged in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That'd be interesting.
When she did the whole hookup to the stuff in Med Lab, that was very, to my Mass Effect fans out there.
Here we go.
Yeah. I'm curious if anybody else got from Mass Effect 2, there's the DLC Overlord, where they had the person who had autism and they hooked up to a machine to try and kind of like actually do something pretty similar to this, but it was a much more brutal hookup they had. But I had very strong David vibes from Overlord in that DLC. So hit me in the comments. So tell me if anybody else had that impression as well.
Hey, can I ask for something? I've floated this idea before as part of like, maybe this is like a Patreon exclusive deal. I've never played Mass Effect. Would you guys be interested in me playing Mass Effect like for a first time go through. Like I can, we can stream it and stuff, and Jeff can be there and laugh at me the whole way,
Well, I'm just thinking of the I'll say 130 hour commitment minimum.
No, it's not.
It's 3 games. It's 3 games. And I'm going to tell you, this is just Jeff. Like you've got to play each game really at least 3 or 4 times to really get everything. Like it is rich. It is
that is a situation I wouldn't mind going through with somebody like you and having you point everything out to me along the way. Like, give me all the spoilers. It's fine. I don't care. That'd
be a lot of fun.
Tell me where to go right now and what to do. Don't make me figure this out.
Last question.
Yes.
So you mentioned it in the recap, but the shadows are in the open and attacking.
Oh yeah.
In Brakiri space. Do we know what Brakiri space is?
We have heard of the Brakari. At least I think it was pronounced Brakari. And I assume they either just mispronounced this one, or when they pluralize it, it changes form or something of that nature. Or I just misheard it the first time, but I am nearly 100% positive, like 98% positive. We have heard the phrase, the Brakari, as one of the aliens on Babylon 5 or in the Babylon 5 universe. Okay.
Yeah, it just hit me. It was very specific. Like it'd be one thing to say the shadows are attacking in the open. Okay. But then they made a point of saying where it was. And I'm like, it's not ringing a bell for me, but I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out.
Well, Jeff, with that, we have gotten to that spot where it is time to boil down the show and see if it has any of what we call the Star Trek equality to it. But really, what we're looking for is not Star Trek, but we are looking for that deep moral message. What is the show trying to say? Is it trying to hold up a mirror to society? Is it trying to give us hope that we can be better in the future? Is it trying to tell us something? Or is it just an awesome piece of sci-fi television? And it can be both, or it can be neither, or it can be one or the other. So we're going to do that. I'm going to rate the scale on a scale of 0 to 5 deltas as far as how quote unquote Star Trek this episode is. Jeff, you got Starfuries this week. How Babylon 5? How much does the show do it in a Babylon 5 way? How much do we enjoy this episode? You got Starfuries. I'm going to go first with deltas. I've already talked about this a bit, but that whole scene between Delenn and G'Kar, I thought was masterfully done. It was masterfully acted. You brought up that Delenn might still be holding some stuff back, kind of walking that, and I didn't catch that. You might be right.
She didn't even mention Kosh at any point in this, and that was a big part of what happened.
To go back to what I was saying, though, if she's taking so much of it on herself, and she's like not throwing people under the bus, which I appreciate that, but she's almost taking more responsibility for it than what she actually deserves to take.
I think she did a good job of taking the accountability she needed to, but I think that was her opportunity to share it. Grey Council said this thing, I advocated, but I stood with what the Grey Council decided. And I did that because the Vorlons also counseled me that way. I made this decision. It was my choice, but here are the reasons why I made it.
I made the choice to agree with everyone else.
Exactly.
And he would understand that. And he'd kill her where she but anyway, she's coming to him. She's showing him the respect he deserves. And I mean that when I say that, deserves. G'Kar deserves that respect to be in on everything that's happening. He deserves, before he joins this private group, to know where people are. He deserves to know that before he fully dives into all of that. She's being truthful with him. And what I loved the most, and we're missing this in our society, I teach my kids to do this, and it freaks other kids out when they do this to other kids. She directly asked for his forgiveness. That is, you don't hear people often physically say the words, "Will you forgive me? I did this. I'm sorry." That will say those words. Will you forgive me? A lot of times it gets, can you ever find it in your heart to forgive me? You don't have to do that. These phrases, will you forgive me? By the way, the converse of that, of saying, yes, I forgive you, physically saying those words it's a game changer for how you develop relationships.
My daughter had her first communion it was back in May. So what is that? 3 months ago. Okay. And as part of her first communion prep, that's one of the exercises they had us do as a family, specifically ask and grant forgiveness, because that'll get the kid, I got my daughter, used to that concept, because you're right. In our society, we just don't.
My, like with my kids, like, was okay, so he asked you to forgive him. What do you say? And what's really funny is like they'd get around like their friends and stuff, and somebody would do something, say, "Oh, will you forgive me?" And then like my boy, like my daughter would do that, right? And then my boy, who's like her older brother, he'd turn around and look at the friend and be like, "Now what do you say?"
No.
And that kid's like, their family doesn't do that. They're like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. No, you must say the anyway. But it is immensely important. And the fact that G'Kar was able to say, not today, but maybe someday. And we already had that discussion, so I won't rehash it here, of knowing himself well enough to not flippantly say, yes, I forgive you, to be able to say it as he actually meant it. I thought was phenomenal. Now, I actually want to talk about the bigger Star Trek message that I got out of this episode.
Okay.
And it's from your boy, Bester. And Bester and Sheridan actually together. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And the point there being, even your enemy can become your friend.
Oh.
Here's the Star Trek part. You ready? You talk to them. Have the conversation. Don't just always assume they're evil. When Bester shows up and he's like, I've got this thing. And Sheridan's like, why shouldn't I just blow you out of the sky? He's like, he calls out curiosity. And Sheridan's like, maybe. But what Sheridan knew in that moment, I don't think it was so much curiosity that stayed his hand as much as I really should find out what he's doing here. Because something's got, like, is this just a trap or is there really something here? And he had to talk to him. And Sheridan went through the places he sent in Ivanova, and he had a plan for that. He brought him in. And if you talk to him, here's what he found out through the course of this episode working with Bester. Because where we wound up at the end was, your war is now my war. You even mentioned he's now part of the Light Council, or whatever we're calling that group.
Army of Light.
Yeah, Army of Light. There it is. Such a horrible name. Anyway, they found common ground. You talk to them, you'll be amazed at what common ground you can find, and you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish together. Because with Bester on their side, this group is going to be able to do stuff they would never be able to do without Bester. And by the way, Bester's going to be able to accomplish stuff from his own agenda that he would never be able to do without them. And here's the cool part. You ready? You don't have to have all your stuff figured out before starting to work with him. If I could grab those folks in Washington and sit down and show them an episode of Babylon 5, this would be it right now. You don't have to have all your issues figured out. You don't have to agree down the line to talk and find common ground to come together and work together, because you'd be shocked at what you can make happen. Because I promise you, in the next season and a half, season and a quarter, 2 seasons, I guess, they're going to beat the Shadows.
Right?
They're going to beat them. I haven't watched beyond this point, but I'm just making a guess here. They're going to beat them. And it's going to be because all of these groups come together and they each contribute, and that includes Bester. And we may not ever trust him, but he's there. That is the Star Trek message. Was this overt? Was this the point of the episode? No, I do not think so. This is not a 5 Delta episode. It's not even a 4 Delta episode, but I will give this a solid 3 Deltas based on that strength alone.
I think that's a great rating. I mean, honestly, because it wasn't what went through this. The real through line for me, and a lot of it was the stuff that we saw with Delenn and G'Kar, which is that's the theme of this season, right? We've talked about this a couple times. It's that forgiveness, piece, and it was just so well done. It was so well done. So I agree. Starfuries. I'm gonna make this really quick. This, to me, should have been a 5 Starfury episode. It's fun. It's awesome. It's got Bester. It's done in a super Babylon 5 way. The introduction of a mistress, and we're just cool with that because like all the stuff, and now like we have a bad guy on the good side. Like how much more Babylon 5 can you get than that?
Jeff, can I pause your conversation? Because you brought up something I've never even thought about till this moment when you just said that.
Yeah.
They brought up a mistress and we're cool with it. And you want to know why? Because they have ceded to us for 3 seasons now. Psycor is marrying people off really against their will. And we understand that same thing happened to Bester, and he actually found the real love of his life, and we're cool. You can be married there and go over there. Dope. I don't advocate that sort of thing in the real life, but in this world, in this universe, I'm with it. That's an interesting concept I've never thought about to this moment. I'm sorry. Go back to what you're saying.
Well, it makes me wonder though, if this happens in psycho, not necessarily falling in love and having a kid with a blip, but having side stuff go on, because there's the Talia version of a forced marriage where you feel victimized and it's horrible. And yes, it is a form of victimization, no question. But then there's the Bester version where he's like, yeah, I'm married, I got a kid, I'm doing my duty, but I'm also going to go like be in love with somebody.
Well, I mean, but doesn't that harken back to, if you go through the history of European arranged marriages between royalty and marriages were a signing of treaties and declarations and things like that. I mean, oh my gosh, that actually, if you go back to that Lumati episode,
oh wow,
with Ivanova, where they're gonna have like sex to seal the deal, like it kind of has rings of that, although I think that was a whole different situation anyway.
But yeah, the title of royal consort, right? You know,
exactly.
Or concubine or whatever, like those are roles.
That's the girl I like. I'm marrying you because they tell me I have to. I'll have a kid with you, but that's really the girl I like. And people are cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part. I mean, I don't know. I've never really been in England in Europe with royalty, but for the most part, like it's just accepted.
It's accepted. I think about in Dune, right? When Paul marries Irulan because he has to have the treaty with House Corino, like that has to happen to legitimize his role as emperor. But he's in love with Chani, and Chani is his concubine. Like
course.
That's, yeah, seriously. I mean,
exactly. I mean, you know, I thought you were going to go with Game of Thrones and Robert Baratheon and Cersei, but you know, she was really in love with, but you know, you went with Dune. Okay, fine.
I did. But also, like, Paul had kids with Chani, the royal consort, the concubine, and there's no question. Those are the heirs to the throne. Like, that's what it is. We're good with that. So I think it's just, this is the Psychor version of all that. But to get back to the Starfury conversation, love it. So great in so many ways. But the massive hole around how is this a revelation that telepaths are the secret weapon? This is not possible. It's not feasible to me that G'Kar, Delenn, everyone else are like, oh, I had no idea. Garibaldi, digging through an old book, is the one who uncovered this mystery that was already uncovered.
In a book that he doesn't understand. He had to have a translator right next to him.
That also kind of has the corners cut off. A very Battlestar Galactica looking book, by the way, I thought.
But have you ever noticed, I'm sorry, you haven't given your surfers, the book of Jaquan's not really as big as it looks like it is. It looks like it's a super thick book, but like every page is like super thick in it too. And it's like a kid's board book.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, you got like 10 pages in that thing, man.
It looks all impressive and it's whatever, but yeah, not so much. And it's mostly pictures.
So how many Starfuries are we on, Jeff? What are you knocking it down for?
Given 4.5. Just going to take half of a Starfury off for that massive plot hole.
If you took anything more than half, I was going to reach through the internet and slap you.
Like, I will fight you. I will Ivanova bitch slap you if you tuck that down anymore.
You will have blood on 2 lips.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff. Well, just like last season, we are creating the absolute 100% completely accurate definitive ranking of the 3rd season of Babylon 5. This week, I expect is going to be a little hard. This might take a little bit. I'm asking you get to do it this week. Where are you placing Ship of Tears? Our current ranking, number 1 is Severed Dreams. Number 2 is Point of No Return. Number 3 is Messages from Earth. That is that trilogy that went bam, bam, bam. Also in there is Passing Through Gethsemane with Brother Edward and Matters of Honor, which was the season 3 kickoff. I think Matters of Honor might be dropping out of the top 5. It's just a guess. I don't know, but what else is dropping down a level or 2? Jeff, where are you placing Ship of Tears?
It's going in the top 5. We know that. I am forced to go back to our season 2 wrap up and think there was about a 4-episode arc, right? Where we had the Long Twilight Struggle, Fall of Night, Coming of Shadows, Zahadum, you know, kind of like this. It was stretched out more over the season than the trilogy we have in our top 3. But when we did our wrap up, right, we went episode by episode to test, you know, really where it was. Because to this point, our top 3 deserves to be the top 3. No question. They're the 3 best episodes we've seen. And we kind of have them set up like in the impact of the trilogy they're in. So my question, I'll just tell you where I'm at, is this is either going to be number 3 or number 4. Point of No Return and Severed Dreams were holy crud episodes. Holy crud. So good. Passing Through Gethsemane was such a great episode of television. It is what really launched so much of the theme of this season, but this is bigger.
It's why last week was a waste.
Exactly.
Passing Through Gethsemane is why Late Delivery from Avalon was a complete waste of an episode. Although an okay 45 minutes of television, just not there.
Yeah.
And it in the mid and after Severed Dreams and Point of No Return and where we are, like, no, that is not where this needs to go. I want to deal with the gunner who started a war 10 years ago. Season 1, man, kick that stuff back there. Season 2, kick that back there.
Well, honestly, I think that you kind of just hit it for me. Passing Through Gethsemane is an important episode. But in the scope of Babylon 5, you can't take anything out of the trilogy of Messages from Earth, Point of No Return, and Severed Dreams without having long-lasting impacts. This episode had great stuff, but it kind of built on top of some of those things. I think this is going to be our new number 4, right below Messages from Earth. God, as I said that, I'm starting to think I might want to make it the number 3. I'm going to make it the number 3. I'm going to put it right above Messages from Earth.
It's a hard sell to put 1, 2, and 3 as that trilogy. Like, there's almost a conversation to have, like, do we wrap them together as one and call that like an episode? I don't think we should, because they are still individual episodes. But we can have that conversation offline. But for now, you're breaking apart the trilogy, which is totally fair. And I mean, to me, the real question was, does this actually go in the new number 1?
Really?
That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to place this. You said number 3, so it goes in number 3, and that's where it's going to be. And I don't know that you're wrong.
Yeah, and I think the thing that pushed it for me was just that exactly, was, do we look at those 3 as one, or do we look at them as individual episodes? And if we look at them as individual episodes, this one's a little bit better than Messages from Earth.
I might have to go back and actually watch that trilogy again to sort of go, okay, what's being set up in each one of these and what's going, because in my mind, all 3 of those episodes are the same story. And I have trouble separating what happened in each episode.
Well, in this one, this is really a question of Bester in Ship of Tears versus Julie Masante in Messages from Earth. And that was great. It was big. It did a lot of stuff, but literally Point of No Return grabbed that football and took it 35 yards forward.
Wait. Messages from Earth was the one that had Sexy Lady in it?
Had Chickie in it.
Oh yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Like, that was a good episode. It certainly built on everything else. This is far better than that one. I like that episode. Don't get me wrong. I like that
totally.
episode.
It's a total top 5 episode at this point. No question.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll leave it there. Number 3. I like it.
Last week, this was a moment of triumph to reach this point. This week, it's a little bit disappointing. It's bittersweet, but that, Brent, is it for Ship of Tears. Next week, we're watching Interludes and Examinations for the first time. One of the games that we play here, Brent talked about at the beginning, but we know the title of the next episode. That is it. We don't know anything else. We haven't seen thumbnails or anything, and we like to guess what the next episode's going to be about based on that alone. So, Brent, what is your guess as to what Interludes and Examinations is going to be about?
When you say interludes, I think of Private Time. Interludes is what I really think of when you say that word. And Examinations. Oh my gosh, if this is a Dr. Franklin episode. Okay, so here's what we know. For the most part, episodes do not like directly sequel each other. They're all tied together. They all work as an overall story, but like, yes, there was Messages from Earth, Point of No Return and Severed Dreams, but that's out of the norm. It's really not so I don't want to say that this is going to come right off the heels of this particular episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interludes and Examinations. I think, we've been in this season. You were kind of talking about this Passing Through Gethsemane has sort of set a tone for this season. These examinations, I feel like this is a lot of self-examination, people seeing where they are with the whole thing. No, like I think there's a little bit of a self-examination. I'm trying to talk my way into this, but it's got to pick up shadows or openly attacking people.
That's right. That was the hanger at the end.
Yep. So, okay, here it is. I got it. The shadows are openly engaging in war. It is time for everybody to knuckle up. Franklin's got to get his STEM thing under control. He had this confession to Delenn the other day of, I think I'm an addict. Remember all those things that everybody came and said, I think I'm an addict. He's got to resolve that. Whatever remaining feelings that Ivanova has for Talia, who has now been dissected, she's got to resolve that. Here's your interlude, Sheridan and Delenn.
Right.
You know? But that's got to get resolved. Like, that's got to move to the next piece. What was Garibaldi's? Garibaldi's saying he's constantly scared
of losing control.
Yeah, I don't know how that gets resolved, but it's okay, guys, we can't mess around anymore. It's here. War is here. Get ready with your button there, Jeff. Get together, because we got to go do those. And oh, hey, by the way, like, this is all our people, but I think this also is going to extend to everybody. Hey, you League of Non-Aligned Worlds, everybody else out there, time for playing's over. We got to go. I think that's where we're going on this one. What do you think?
Let me just read you what I wrote here, because we're going to get some follow-up from the secrets shared in Ceremonies of Light and Dark. I think we'll see how Talia will affect Marcus and Ivanova's relationship, and Dr. Franklin is going to open up to Garibaldi about his addiction. I got some specifics in there, but you and I are on the exact same page. This is going to wrap up some Ceremonies from Light stuff, and it's going to get everybody kind of clean and ready for moving forward. I think the Shadows in the Open thing is going to get mentioned again in this one. Like, it's not going to be a focal point. It'll be like, oh, and this is also happening. And then an episode or two later is where it's going to like, oh, and here it is. But it's just going to be I don't want to say a slow build, but they're not going to move. I don't think they're going to move direct into shadow conflict from here. And we're going to find out right here next week. Thank you all so much for joining us. Please follow us or subscribe wherever you are listening or watching. And if you haven't already, head over to Good Pods, head over to Apple Podcasts, to Podchaser, any of those cool places, Castbox. Leave us a rating and review. I'll read it right here on the podcast. So until next time.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, Brent.
So before we go, we got a convoy coming through here.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to snag it. We need to get it, because in the center of that convoy is a ship with some pretty sweet supplies. We got that podcasting thing coming up. It's got a bunch of cool stuff in it.
How do you even know? How do you even know this?
Dude, you've been around for a long time. You know my episode predictions. I'm a P13. Let's go.
Fair enough. Peace, victory, and long life.
It's my first time.